My God, a literal decade now in the making, this channel has become. 10 years. 10 years. And of course, as part of that anniversary, this is the year of looking back at the future and of rectifying old mistakes, one could say. And one of those grave mistakes was my team, admittedly back in the earlier years, deciding to do Dr. Strangelove without moi.
I don't even remember the circumstances why we did.
It was back when we were more, admittedly we did get more stuff done. However, the way we got more stuff done was pretty much, hey, you want to do this? Sure.
Yeah, basically.
Point is, we swapped technically Shiroi from Prorjova in this case.
See, now, this is the Kubrick film I've actually been the most interested in seeing, so I was kind of salty about missing out on it, because this was Kubrick, for once, doing a full-fledged comedy. Today's pick is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Both titles of which have been parodied massively across media.
It sounds like the title of a manga.
That said, the one other big thing of note I note is that this is the film debut of, well, this actor you may or may not have heard of called James Earl Jones.
Well, keep in mind, Drova, his role is very minimal in this, so don't expect a lot.
True, but a start is a start nonetheless.
It's like watching the Wizard just to see Tobey Maguire, that's what I mean.
I mean, shoot, at least James Earl Jones has a speaking part. Tobey Maguire was essentially a side goon. But I digress. We're looking at Dr. Strangelove. Normally we'd say to start before logo, but no, just start right at the start because this is one of those movies that essentially
there is technically a
right
logo in
it.
between, but it's preceded by this text dump that basically says, despite everything, we don't encourage you to act in the way people act in this movie.
Yeah, so unless you have like some ultra rare version that has a logo before that text, start pretty much as soon as you hear the movie's music starting and you see the text crawling. Alright, is everyone ready?
Go on.
3, 2, 1, click. Finally, I get to see what all the hype is about this movie.
I love how the on iTunes, as I'm watching it, it's apparently it thinks the film came out in 2008.
Such events as these people. Probably should be noted that none of the characters portraying this film are meant to represent any real persons, living or dead. For context, again, you may think it's a bit silly to have a disclaimer for a movie like this if you know what it's about. But you have to remember, this was done roughly in the middle of the 60s, possibly the most, how shall I put it, scary part of the Cold War, basically. Yeah. Sure, it wasn't, I think the Cuban Missile Crisis was yet to happen, but we were close at the very least. And here's Kubrick basically making a shitpost about the Cold War.
Now, admittedly, he did do this after the infamous Hollywood blacklisting era was over. Recently over, but over nonetheless. So he might have had something of a parachute for that.
Also, if I remember correctly, Pedro, this is still technically an adaptation of a book.
Yes, but, technically, but in typical Kubrick fashion, again, Clockwork Orange aside, it's vaguely an adaptation. It's not particularly a direct adaptation. It's more like inspired by it than anything.
And of course, the first joke is basically a penis gag with the refilling of an airplane. Mwah! Magnificent.
Starting Peter Sellers!
Well, you see, ladies and gentlemen,
and also George C. Scott.
What are these credits?
Well, you see, ladies and gentlemen, when a plane and another plane love each other very much.
Oh. You see, Joe, I got the title wrong. It's Dr. Strangelove.
There you go. There's James Earl Jones.
Peter Bull and Tracy Reed.
Who did these?
And Frank Barry going back.
I have to
wonder. Going back. No!
I actually recognize one of the names there.
Go
on. Shane Rimmer. He was he did a lot of voice work around this time. Include when did this film come out? 64.
64.
64.
Oh yeah, because not long from now, he'd be one of the voices in a lot of Jerry Anderson stuff, including Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm. And one thing you'll like to know is that the production designer is the same from Dr. No.
Ken Adam.
Yes.
So this movie has had a massive impact, even into modern era, where Metal Gear even has a character more or less fashioned after this movie.
Although much less comedic.
More or less. Well, the character itself is not based on Doctor Strangelove, but yeah, the name is just a blatant reference. Yes.
I mean, granted, her design also.
Yeah, the design also resembles, but the character's behavior and the character's also movements and everything technically are their own thing. Anyway.
Oh, I didn't know Airplane started off as a black
We start with
comedy.
a painting of an airport.
So I have to wonder, what was going through Kubrick's mind? Because comedy is, well, as far as I know, not really been his big forte, so...
Well,
I mean, there's been funny bits in his movies.
Well, Jovan, neither was sci-fi, and yet he made 2001 the most influential sci-fi movie ever made.
I think I mentioned already, but that's the thing that fascinates me the most about Kubrick. The fact that the guy could just jumping from genre to genre with almost no visible sweating.
That's what makes him, in my eyes, the greatest filmmaker of all time. The fact that he could just try his hand at a jar and set a new bar in that jar while he was at it.
I will say, 2001: A Space Odyssey doesn't confuse me as much because, yeah, he had never done sci-fi before, but 2001 at least matches his typical form of tone. Like, I think Strangelove is the only time he's done a full-on comedy, though.
I don't think I mentioned this on commentary yet, but there was also the scary perspective that he would have been the first person to make an adaptation of a Warhammer 40k piece of media. And let's just say that the thought alone brings a lot of questioning for different reasons.
I will say... Oh, never mind.
The movie has a star-studded cast, including, of course, Peter Sellers, who at the time was an incredibly popular comedian.
Who was apparently portraying multiple roles in this movie.
Now, this particular... hold on.
Is this one of those cases where he did it black and white due to limitations, or he wanted to do it for the aesthetic?
Yeah, here we go. Here's some background information. Kubrick became preoccupied with the issue of nuclear war as the Cold War funneled in the 1950s. He even considered moving to Australia because he feared that New York City might be likely a target for the Russians. He studied over 40 military and political research books on the subject and eventually reached the conclusion that nobody really knew anything and the whole situation was absurd.
Man,
and that's the result of this movie.
Man, you have to be really terrified to think moving to Australia is a safer place.
But again,
he settled on Britain.
Also, Pedro Jova asked about the safety decision of the movie being black and white. Like, was it a thing that he did it for for the art or out of necessity?
Well, remember, one thing we have to remember that yes, color was a standard today, but there were still filmmakers who preferred to make films in black and white because they either preferred it, like Theo said, or sometimes just to save on money.
Well, that's why I'm asking if this was like a necessary thing or like he chose this for the aesthetic.
Probably for the aesthetic, because if I remember correctly, he made Spartacus before this one. So.
I know that Young Frankenstein was actually made in black and white intentionally to resemble the Boris Karloff movie.
Pretty much, yeah. I will say these effects are not bad. Those look like
there has been already so much airplane porn that will make Miyazaki blush.
Well, if there's one thing everyone seems to love, it's a good airplane.
And a good magazine, apparently.
Yes.
In the meantime, General Ripper, the guy that Peter Sellers' character was talking to, is played by Sterling Hayden, who was in a previous Kubrick movie, The Killing.
I wonder, in some ways, could this be considered the precursor to Airplane?
It might be okay. It might be possible that Airplane took cues from this or anything.
But Airplane is wasn't as high scale as this. Yeah, Airplane was just on one airplane. This is a whole nuclear war.
Well,
Yeah.
my plan is
The
like
type of gag involving people on airplane.
Auto-destruct. Did you notice? In case there's an auto-destruct button on the panel.
Well, you always
Again,
gotta have those to get rid of the evidence, of course.
Yeah, gotta need to make sure that the Ruskies do not find any evidence.
Top secret. Okay. Let's see. Group attack plan A, group attack plan A, wing attack plan A.
Oh,
Aha, wing attack plan. Okay.
That's the one that they just got received.
No, R is in pirates.
So what could wing attack plan R be?
It's also very funny because the situation we only got to know this later, more recently when a bunch of classified information got released. But a situation like this actually happened in real life during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Kubrick just accidentally predicted this.
The Cuban Missile Crisis, when everyone was running like a chicken with their head cut off,
including the X-Men.
Oh,
yeah. And to think, Michael Ironside nearly helped cause the nuclear war.
And yet...
This was also one of the big pioneers of satirical comedy, because for a long time in Hollywood, comedies were more about the slapstick. But this was one of the first ones to have the comedy be more verbal. And not to mention to take direct social jabs at problems in society of that time. So again, like you can tell that, for example, Monty Python got a huge influence out of this movie in particular, because there's going to be a lot of scenes that feel like just like a Monty Python sketch. Yes, sir.
Don't tell me. He has a nickname of King included, doesn't he?
Well, he's Texan more than anything, so...
Well, I was talking about Major Kong.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's him, with the cowboy hat.
Oh. I think he's also played by Sellers?
No.
Hey, so this is where Die Hard with a Vengeance took its inspiration.
Oh wait, never mind. I'm mistaken. Though
apparently, Kong is played by Slim Pickens.
Although apparently, Sellers was also supposed to play Kong, but he apparently had an aversion to the fourth role. So,
I mean, yeah, he already plays 3 characters in this. I think a 4th one might have been too much.
Oh, and apparently also supposedly / conveniently sprained ankle prevented him from getting into and on the B-52 set for the role too.
Oh well.
Again, apparently some found it suspiciously convenient timing. Like,
Also, how young was James Earl Jones by the time this movie was made?
Probably in his 20s.
If not younger. Go on, Dwibs.
Yeah, and as demonstrated, Kubrick actually did get quite a lot of criticism for, again, because remember, this was back in the day where this kind of social commentary was a big no-no.
He was 33 at this point.
Okay. I think the only movie that came close to replicating this idea of doing something so boldly, technically risque, satirical in a period when it might have been considered no-no might be Team America War Police, because it was in the middle of War Terror.
Yeah, that was probably another thing. Remember, this was Kubrick right after he had made Paths of Glory. And yes, Lolita was an incredibly controversial movie where Kubrick got tremendous flack from a lot of people, including even the Catholic Church. But the leader was still a huge box office success, so there was no way the executives were going to tell Kubrick what to do.
Because money tends to talk in the industry.
Yeah. You know, there's in moments like these where I can tell Ken Adams did the production design. Because this feels like a scene you'd see in one of the older Bond movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, Ken Adams' thing was mainly a lot of very big rooms with a lot of stuff going on in them. He did the production design for Bond films from Doctor No up until Moonraker in 1979. I'm not sure if he missed a film or two in the interim.
There is also attention to detail. Like you see in the mirror where the table is all of objects, but, technically they're useless for the purpose of the scene other than, adding detail to the room itself. It's kind of cute.
So, would you say this was like the dream team film production of... I'm not sure about the decade, because there were a lot of great movies in the 60s, but of the particular year that the movie came out.
Regarding the comedies, this was definitely first of all, we have Stanley Kubrick co-writing and directing the movie, and we have aside from him writing, we have Terry Southern, who was also a legendary comedy writer, and Peter George was a Welsh author who was known for a Cold War thriller. So he and of course we got Peter Sellers doing free roles, who regardless of what you think of him as a person, he was a brilliant comedic actor. And of course we have George E. Scott here, of course, who's also incredibly funny of an actor. So yeah, this is basically an all-star production all around.
So everyone seems up in arms about whatever this Plan R is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
For once, I legit don't know. Like, this is the first time I've ever seen this movie. I know about some references.
I know that...
Trust me, Jova, you're in for a treat.
I know that it's actually considered... Get this, Jova. It's apparently considered in a lot of circles one of the best movies ever made, actually.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Oh, look at that. I love that billboard. Peace is
our profession. Boom, boom, boom.
Again, you can kind of also create kind of one of those. This is also one of those movies where you can apply the Seinfeld isn't funny trope, where yes, that joke you've seen a million times before in comedies nowadays, but back in these days, this kind of joke was not really seen, because this kind of joke in 1964 was usually considered kind of a no-no.
And again, this was possibly the worst time to make that.
Yeah.
So apparently Stanley Kubrick did actually have plans for a sequel to this movie.
Okay, knowing how the movie ends, I find that it would be a bit weird to continue.
Let's see.
Theo, the movie doesn't make any sense. Why should the consequences of how a sequel would work make any sense?
I suppose.
Anyway, so apparently in 1995, Stanley Kubrick had enlisted Terry Southern to script a sequel titled Son of Strangelove. And get this, Kubrick had Terry Gilliam in mind to direct. The script was never completed, but index cards laying out the story's basic structure was found among Southern's papers after his death in October 1995. It was set largely, apparently, in underground bunkers, supposedly. In 2013, Gilliam commented, "I was told after Kubrick died by someone who had been dealing with him that he had been interested in doing another Strangelove with me directing. I never knew about that until after he died, but I would have loved to." Which is funny. I've never known Kubrick to be the sequel kind of guy, so...
Well, he was starting to get... Well, by the time we got to 1995, he was starting to get old, so my guess is...
And in general, he had a lot of ideas in mind of potentially what could do. Like I mentioned, Jova, he actually considered at one point an adaptation of a book of one of the Warhammer 40k novels. And let me tell you, dodged a bullet there, because that novel is actually a terrible piece of shit.
Well, here's the thing. Kubrick, for all we know, maybe would have just deviated so hard from the novel.
Very possible.
I will say this about Kubrick. Part of me does wonder if And I'm not saying his death was a good thing, but do you think his death pretty much allowed him to go more or less
Out with a bang.
Yeah, out with a bang and on a relatively spotless record, because to my knowledge, I don't think any of his movies has missed in the long run. Even ones that weren't liked at first eventually became beloved.
Yeah.
However, based off of what we've heard from how AI was going, I do wonder if eventually Kubrick's streak might have ended. And I'm not saying...
obviously, eventually it would.
And mind you, I'm not saying that him dying was a good thing. I'm just wondering, like, what would have been the movie that might have finally had him directing a stinker? Or
it depends.
I mean, who knows?
Like, I don't know.
Maybe AI could have turned out better if he was behind that. I mean, knowing that ending was still penned by him does make me wonder.
I do still wonder a lot regarding that movie, but that's probably for another time.
Apparently, each of a member of the plane had a specific instruction.
Oh, that one. Discriminator. All right, the auto-destruct test.
I would not be surprised if Mel Brooks took some inspiration from how this movie goes.
Possibly.
I thought it was going to be. For a second there, I thought it was going to be like they do the auto-destruct test, but he accidentally sets it off and blows up the whole plane.
Yes, Pedro.
It's not just possible, Jova. It's practically a guarantee. I mean, when it comes to spoofs, satirical comedies, this one is one of the pioneers, right? So it's just one of those things where it's just like practically every movie of that kind owes something to this one.
Like the only other product that comes close to actually doing this kind of pioneer is actually the short that almost got Chuck Jones fired, the Dover Boys. That was released, I think, before this.
That one almost got him fired? One of the most classic Looney Tunes shorts?
It's a long story, Joe. Essentially, not many animated shorts were done with Chuck Jones were done using that style of comedy back then, and the people in charge were very furious at him because of it. Again, more for another time.
Have any of you guys seen Failsafe, the film that came out the same year?
No.
I may have heard it by name, but I haven't seen it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah, Failsafe is... I haven't seen it either, but basically, from what I understand, Failsafe is basically a film with a similar plot like this, but it's not a comedy.
And it happened to come out the same year?
It's more likely than you think, Joe. Sometimes it
True.
just happens.
To be fair, yeah, the war sentiment, be it for or against war, was there in the 60s, so and to be fair, the Cold War inspired a ton of stuff from pretty much every media industry. It inspired movies, it inspired books, and of course, it inspired the music.
So what exactly, I wonder, caused General Ripper here to, call for that R order, whatever it stands for.
Especially with that weird radio that Mandrake found in the machine.
Also, I love how his full name is Jack D. Ripper.
Funny.
It's definitely taking cues from how Ken Adams films go, especially in the acting.
Oh, they do sound cute, but Ken Adams was just a production designer.
Well, again, I'm not saying like it's taking cues from his style, but it is taking cues from films that he's worked on.
Well, yeah, Ken Adams had up to this point he had Dr. No. He skipped From Russia with Love, but he also had Goldfinger under his belt at this point.
Nice.
I love if they call it grain alcohol because calling it vodka might sound too communist.
Don't you know? If you drink vodka, you're a traitor to
the nation,
society, or something. If you do that, you'll be shot.
Funny story, Dwebs.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a great shot, by the way.
Panic.
I wonder.
That too.
Close enough.
Close enough. I
Also,
guess.
well, it's not the case here. In this case, obviously, we're using a different person for each of. Since you're the American, who was the president in 1964?
The president in 1964. That would either be or.
I'll check. U.S. president.
Oh wait.
1964.
I think that may have been Lyndon B. Johnson.
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yes, right. It was not too long after John F. Kennedy had been assassinated, which means that this is taking place after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Even if it means we have to die in the process.
And there you go, everybody. He decided to attack Russia because apparently they're impurifying our bodily fluids somehow. All right, and here it is. This is probably one of the more iconic scenes in the movie. The scenes involving the entire Senate.
The War Room is actually listed as possibly the most iconic set design.
Mm-hmm.
We have a general named Jack Ripper, a major named King Kong. What's next?
I think the president is called Murphy.
Oh, Murphy's
so, yeah.
Law.
No, Merkin Muffley, actually.
Okay.
And yes, played by lots of Strangelove, like Theo said.
Speaking of which, where is the titular doctor?
Oh, don't worry, Jova. He will
worry.
show up.
Don't worry, Jova. We're saving him.
Turgid son.
That's putting it mildly.
You think? Oops. Oh, that's a face that has egg all over it.
Do you think he was signing an autograph?
Maybe it was accepting the terms and usual conditions.
Admittedly, those terms are so specific, he probably thought, it'll get me in good with these people. It's not like we'll ever need to resort to that.
You're probably wondering, how did General Ripper even come to this conclusion that the Russians are after our bodily fluids? Oh, just you wait. His reasoning is incredible. Let's just put it that way. Who the hell approved this plan of attack? This is so easy to go wrong.
Of the president, apparently. What a well-oiled machine.
It's ABC, isn't it?
Mm.
It sounds like General Ripper's gone mad with power.
Gosh, I thought Colonel Kurtz was crazy.
He was, but this might be a general who tells him to maybe cool it. Right, this was at a point where pretty much America was convinced that Russia had super advanced technology, so to compensate, we made super duper advanced technology. And then it later turned out that Russia was exaggerating, so we were apparently actually well ahead of the curve, and we had no idea.
Not Alphabet, I know this because they actually let us study this in school even before I knew it, confirmed thanks to video essays and everything. Brilliant.
I am doing all of this for the sake of our fluids, ladies and gentlemen.
But the American spy services were kind of terrible at gathering information on the Russian soil.
Gee, you think? You'd like to hold off judgment. That order from him was not good enough for you to pass judgment on his mental health.
Now, maybe there's just something we're not seeing here. Otherwise,
of course.
A single slip-up.
Look, I know that you just sent an entire aircraft to attack Russia with missiles.
Nuclear missiles at that.
But I want to hold off judgment before I declare him mad, okay? I don't want to jump the gun.
How many guns are you chewing for all this scene? Jesus.
Okay. Awkward.
How the hell does his lover have a direct line into the fucking war room?
I think she's calling you from his home, and I guess she knows this line. It's still, what the fuck?
Honey, can we please talk about this later?
Yeah, you were legit embarrassing me in front of my boss, the president!
Of course.
Well, yeah, considering what we just learned, yeah.
Yeah, say your prayers. We might legit die. Make your peace with God.
General face. You know, I'm starting to understand why Kojima chose names for his characters.
You know, I would definitely state that I'm of firm belief that the first inspiration Kojima took from was Dr. Strangelove. At the very least, by the time of Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, that's not even up for debate. Especially when you get to Peace Walker. Peace Walker is all the confirmation I need.
Pretty much, yeah. Peace Walker is more or less Metal Gear Solid's take on Dr. Strangelove.
Go ahead, General.
So the bad guys are ourselves.
Well, again, as Pedro also mentioned, Kubrick essentially, instead of taking a side, is basically splitting the atom, pardon the pun, and basically telling that everyone involved in this on either side is basically a moron.
And remember that's what he claimed, that he did a lot of research into the matter to try to understand what was the right side, and he realized no, actually this is all a complete fucking bonkers shit. So,
like, sure, things got better at the end anyway, but I think he still had a point.
Like, okay,
I'm pretty sure that without the presence of someone like Gorbachev, things would have continued to escalate.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, yeah, the 60s needless to say, in the earlier years of the Cold War, it was a bit more frantic. As the Cold War proceeded, we did start to get down better strategies, and while America was getting stronger, Russia and the Soviet Union was not
Getting
holding
poorer.
things together. Yeah, that too.
Also, it's interesting about the guy who wrote the original book version, the book that this was based on, Peter George. He wasn't too keen on the book being turned into a satire, yet he wrote the entire novelization of the film anyway.
Wait.
So
the
I
book
guess that
originally-
was his compromise.
Wait, you're telling me that the book originally wasn't a comedy?
No, I know this because it actually received a film adaptation that is actually more serious than
Oh.
that. And I can imagine the author potentially being a bit pissed that, just, we took their, source material for it. So to a degree, I understand, but considering again they allowed him to a novelization of this, I guess it's a good compromise.
Also, Dwebs, according to the credits, Peter George himself was one of the free script writers. So, dude, you participated in the writing of this. You realize?
Granted, that could mean almost any amount of involvement, ranging from, hey, I wrote this and called the shots, to, hey, I wrote this, but then somebody else not liking it rewrote it over and got final say, so...
Oh, I get that, but normally when that happens, writers ask for their names to be taken off, but he didn't.
I mean, there could be a multitude of factors into that, like maybe he still wanted to at least get proper credits, seeing as how that can sometimes dictate how much money one can get for it, and I can understand him still wanting to get the money he was owed in that regard. Or maybe he did ask, but they didn't take his name off because, yeah, sometimes that just happens.
This bit here. Yeah, so we got the Russian ambassador in here.
Which is a big risk, according to the general.
Kiss off.
Kiss off.
Okay. Apparently there was one Soviet Union leader who apparently did like to kiss a lot. So
Brezhnev, yes, he's very famous for that.
I'm guessing that's probably a reference to him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, honestly, I will. I think that's James Earl Jones there.
Yeah, so like I said, he showed up occasionally.
I love this guy's voice. Morphine? Why do you need morphine?
It was the 60s, Pedro. Like
Holy Bible in Russian first.
It's a very tiny book, though. Why $100 in rubles? Like, you're supposed to drop a bomb, not infiltrate.
You never know. You never know.
In case you want to cross tracks.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, I
guess. I know, I get the idea, like, they want to disguise themselves as Russian women, maybe.
But yeah, honestly, again, this... the fact that the original thing wasn't even a comedy does lead to my surprise more. Like, what made Stanley Kubrick wake up and say, hey, for once I want to do a comedy, and he did it on, like, one of the adaptations where comedy was probably...
I was about to ask the same Dwaves, like, is that Goldfinger's actor?
I was going to say he was doing an impression of Orson Welles.
Yeah, more likely. That's the thing, Joe. Clockwork Orange was basically an anomaly. Most of the time, if Kubrick would take a book, he would just massively diverge from the book.
And, okay, I will say this. That can be a risky pattern, since, admittedly... What the heck? Gentlemen, please! This is politics! We should have some dignity! Wait.
Also, Gert Frobe wasn't in this movie.
Okay.
I love this bit. Here it comes.
Ow.
Still, to this day, one of the greatest lines of dialogue ever put on anything. It will never get old.
Of course, the classic micro camera. Well, there's always a first, I guess.
Oh, here we go. The president of Mother Russia is on the phone, ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah,
you were
like,
saying, Jova, that the pattern of always diverging from the books you adapt is a dangerous one, you said?
it's like, I mean, to be fair, one reason that sometimes bad adaptations do get ripped a new one is because they diverge too much. Now, I think the idea should be, sure, change up some stuff, but try and keep some things true. That is, unless the original subject material is pretty iffy. Ergo, wrote down what the Oompa Loompas were originally. Like, oh boy.
The interesting thing about that is that sometimes Kubrick will actually get the book authors themselves to participate in the screenplay, like he did for this in Lolita. Like in Lolita, the script for Lolita was written by both Kubrick and the book's author. And Arthur C. Clarke also participated in helping write 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I wonder if in regards to this movie, while the writer of the book was involved, he wasn't aware it was being turned into a comedy until it was too late to shift gears. But by that point, he figured, I'm in it, might as well. Again, since he probably was getting a good deal of money for the adaptation, I presume.
Again, he wrote the entire novelization for the movie as well, so
sorry,
you can't have hated it that much, right?
Well,
hold on, guys. Here it is. One of the funniest scenes ever shot on film, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get it. Yeah, get on the phone. All right, here we go. Listen to this, Jova. You're in for a treat. Come on, President.
Yeah, to be fair, this is genuine Russian, I can tell. Even if I don't understand exactly what they're saying.
What a shock.
Oh yeah, being drunk in a situation like this.
Oh, here we go. I love it. Listen.
You know, to think, the equivalent of what we're doing now would be considered like top-level secret technology back in the time then.
My name is Merkin Muffley, and I'm fine, Dimitri.
And you know, we had that little misunderstanding in Cuba. Oh dear. Yeah, hydrogen bomb is like one of the few things bigger than the atomic, so,
Yeah, funny story, Dimitri.
It happens, come on.
Yeah,
come on. Come on, declarations of war happen every day.
Well, let me finish, Dimitri.
I love it. We were basically talking like a...
Listen, how do you think I feel about it?
Yeah, we're looking like a couple.
You never call.
Let me guess. So the next thing you're gonna say is that when you were doing it, you were faking it.
George C. Scott's facial reactions during this scene are pure gold.
You're like, oh fuck! Please stop talking.
Yeah, look at. Did you notice his frowning of his eyebrow?
Yeah.
Like George C. Scott is an amazing physical actor. The Ghostbusters?
CADH.
You know their phone number.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
Unless we're blown up first. Yeah.
Sorry.
Look, I mean...
Alright, you're sorrier than I am. Okay, fine.
Just kiss and make up. Come on.
What is it? The madman actually did it.
Oh boy.
The Doomsday Machine?
So, yeah, we've talked about how this film got some stuff about America right. Yeah, about the Dead Hand. You're actually gonna love this. Believe it or not.
What a random question.
Yes, Jova.
So, yeah. In probably the most disturbing example of defictionalization, the Dead Hand system, constructed by the Soviets in the 80s, is essentially a real-life version of a doomsday device.
Damn it, Stanley. And everyone else who wrote the script.
I mean, shoot. It does make you wonder, did the Russians think, hey, you remember that film, Strangelove? We should actually do that, but in real life.
Did this actually get released in the Soviet Union?
I have my doubts. I mean, I'm sure eventually it did in some way, but at the time,
Khrushchev and Brezhnev did allow the, more liberal policies about importing foreign media, like the Beatles music.
Yeah, but I'm guessing it would have taken until the Soviet Union died before a lot of that kind of stuff could come out.
Most likely, too.
Remember, Paths of Glory got banned in France for like 25 years or whatever it was. Let me double check. Are you sure about that? Uh-oh.
Horrible shots.
Yeah, terrible aim. Yeah.
Is it?
Granted, he may not have been aiming to kill him.
Wait. Why are you getting your golf clubs?
I'm about to go bash in some guy named Joel's head.
No.
No, he's getting his most important club out.
the best iron, so to speak.
Oh, here we go then, I guess.
What kind of general are you? Her Majesty's finest. Is that translation for, I'd rather not be involved in your coup?
Yeah, another thing about this movie in terms of behind-the-scenes stuff, Kubrick allowed Peter Sellers to improvise a lot. In fact, he specifically said the film crew that he wanted the cameras on all the time because he didn't want to miss anything Peter Sellers did.
I think in terms of improvisation, Kubrick only ever allowed Sellers and later Arliemi to do that.
Oh, and in case one's wondering about the status of the Dead Hand system, by most accounts it is normally switched off and is supposed to be activated during times of crisis, but as of 2009, it is said to remain fully functional and able to serve its purpose when needed.
I mean, it's a good thing that we, in like 80 years from this movie, we clearly learned the right lessons.
I'm genuinely wondering if that was actually in the script, or if George C. Scott genuinely tripped and Kubrick thought that was funny, so he decided to keep it in.
Possible.
That stuff tends to happen a lot in media.
Wait, wasn't Brezhnev the Soviet Union leader at the time?
I think so, yes.
Had he not been outed yet?
No, he died in '82.
Oh, wait, never mind.
He stood for a while.
Yeah, I was thinking of Khrushchev.
Oh, there he is, Jova. Dr. Strangelove.
If you had a keen eye, you noticed that he was already at the table for a couple of the other scenes.
Yeah, I did. Which means, isn't Peter Sellers at the table with himself?
Yes.
The Bland Corporation.
So, the titular character, and it takes over half the movie for us to finally meet him. What's up with that?
Jova.
Well, I mean, it took a lot longer to meet. It took a lot longer to meet Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now.
And yeah, the thing with Dr. Strangelove is that for some reason he apparently has a German side to him that is trying to take control.
Specifically on his right hand. Does that sound familiar, Jova?
Oh, yes. Very much so. Might he be one of the applicants from Operation Paperclip? There's the line, he said it.
I mean, who wouldn't like it?
Okay, did Mel Blanc base his Marvin the Martian voice off of Peter Sellers' acting here?
No, Marvin the Martian was already a thing at this point.
Weird, he sounds a lot like Marvin the Martian.
It's probably the other way around, Jova. Peter probably took it from there.
Given that Marvin the Martian does fantasize about blowing us up, I guess it fits.
What about the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Pretty strange name, isn't it?
I have to wonder, did they even give George C. Scott the script, or did they just ask him to stage it?
Yeah, he was a Nazi, wasn't he?
Avoiding the question. I have to wonder if they actually gave George C. Scott the script, or if they asked him just stay there and react naturally.
I'm curious. Was How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb the original title of the movie before they called it Dr. Strangelove, or was Dr. Strangelove always the title?
Yeah.
Oh.
Notice the profession of peace that the U.S. military is so well known for, guys.
It's the same thing that happens in the beginning of Lost in Space. Also, I found it hilarious that George C. Scott's character is supposed to be essentially a parody of the typical, overly aggressive military general guy from the United States that wants to bomb everyone up, or at least, despises the enemy to their core. And yet so many actual movies of the 90s took the wrong lesson and played the character completely straight, particularly Roland Emmerich.
That doesn't surprise me. Like, not to say Roland Emmerich has never made a good movie, but holy cow.
I'm talking specifically about that stereotype.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the kind of character that got even parodied, once again in Mars Attacks. Like, how many? Okay, to be fair, also to what the General Reaper was saying before, like, how many militaries does it take to actually sniff him out?
Seems he's barricaded himself in pretty hard.
Mendrick makes a good point. Wouldn't we be better away from the class?
Okay, General.
Oh my god. This is really, they made Alex Jones a military general.
General, what drugs have you been doing? It's the 60s, so you can be honest.
Believe it or not, Jova, it was not drugs that led him to this state. It was something entirely different, as you're going to explain in a few minutes.
His post-war comic conspiracy? His?
Yes.
Of course.
Hey, Pot. Yes, Cattle. You're looking pretty black today. Of course. How did I not know?
Kubrick totally based his character off of McCarthy, didn't he?
Very likely.
Yeah. So how did you develop this theory? What?
Oh my god.
Usually it's called post-nut clarity, but this is not it.
You were suffering a dry spell, it sounds like.
So let me get this straight.
He is doing this because...
They seek the life. Okay, you're not entirely wrong there, but I get the feeling you've got everything mixed up there.
So you essentially put the whole world to war just because you were impotent. And you don't want to admit that.
Sounds a bit petty to me, but I'm just saying.
Well, to be fair, I don't think he said that he was impotent. It's more so that he's afraid that women want to take away our essence of love, as in our fluids.
Well, he mentioned the drynessing, which implies he wasn't able to perform, essentially.
Jesus Christ. There's having blue balls, and then there's this.
Oh, okay. So that's why he was able to barricade himself. He had some soldiers apparently still following his command thanks to the protocol. So, when you get down to it, he's just a sillier Metal Gear Solid villain when you really analyze it.
Yep. is he even listening to him? I wonder.
My fluids are showing.
You might want to see a doctor.
Let's sate my curiosity for what I asked earlier. I'll ask my phone. Did Doctor Strangelove release in the Soviet Union? Let's check IMDb.
Siri, are you after our bodily fluids?
I'll ask you that. Are you after our bodily fluids?
What did it say?
Yeah, it just gave me a list of websites that have the quote bodily fluids.
Siri doesn't want to answer that question.
I'm sorry, but I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Thanks, Hal.
Yes, you will. That's good. You know, self-reflection helps.
That's nice, Jack, but can you please leave me out of this? You fool! You could have taken advantage. Just kill him with that now.
I mean,
Well,
granted...
I think he needs to know the code.
Yeah.
What, to use even that gun that he's holding right now?
No. I mean, he needs to know the code to recall this whole thing, and only Jack knows that.
I mean,
that's
I
the
guess,
major problem they're having.
Fine. Okay, fine. In that case, here's what you do. Knock him out, tie him up on something, and then threaten him with the gun to tell him the code.
Oh, dear.
And yeah, by Mandrake's own admission, he was not really much of an action guy.
And I get the feeling Jack just took the coward's way out.
I mean, it came out in Japan later that October. Portugal had to wait till 1974.
Damn, that's actually a lot.
10 years.
I'm actually, while you're ready, please, I'm curious, what about my country?
I'll get back to that. I can't find any list mention of Russia here, so I can only assume it didn't. Italy got it on April 3rd, 1964.
Oh.
That makes relatively a lot of sense. You know, when it comes to importing media, we were generally relatively good at it.
I wonder, is that an actual real plane they got? Let me check.
Maybe for the distant shot it's a model, but for insides, yes.
It's only a model.
Shh. Shh.
Also, funny thing about radars, in order to actually receive signal, you have to actually emit it. So if you see them, they tend to see you.
You see, there's one of our commanders here went a little funny in the head, and he ordered our missiles to attack Stoke.
Before going a little funny on his own head.
Funny also...
Why is he attacking us? You haven't done nothing.
Well, let me finish, Twibs. Let me finish, Twibs. Listen, how do you think I feel? Why do you think I'm telling you this? Just to say hello?
Also, it's funny you mentioned that, Pedro, because in your neighboring country of Spain, there apparently are a lot of unexploded, hydrogen bombs which accidentally got left. So sleep tight.
Yes.
Oh, I even found the Italian poster for the movie, where it's
They translated it literally. It's basically translated literally, Dottor Stranamore.
Let's see. Doctor Strangelove was filmed at Shepperton Studios near London, as Sellers was in the middle of a divorce at the time and unable to leave England.
How common is that? We found. Oh. Damn.
Also, I gotta give credit. For an Englishman, Sellers actually is playing some boss Americans, it seems.
Ah, my eyes.
Apparently the main reason Sellers was reluctant to do King Kong in the end was he felt his workload was too heavy, and he worried he would not properly portray the character's Texan accent. Which is funny, because Texan accents are like one of the go-tos for British actors when they're trying to imitate Americans.
The interesting thing is that I mean, yeah, it feels a little bit weird because Peter Sellers has such a huge range of voices.
Yeah,
So
like he's English, so I guess he was worried he might overdo it with the Texan one, but still, like, honestly, again, I don't know how he is as a person, but as a British actor, he seems to be one of the better ones at doing American accents.
As a person, he had some issues, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Also, I don't remember how sure he felt during this sequence in your journal commentary.
Well, she seemed to be enjoying it. Like,
no, I was specifically talking about what we just passed through.
Okay.
Retail essence.
Let me just get.
Okay, so since the Renegade General's out of commission.
Hi.
Is that really important right now?
That one doesn't even have a cord attached.
God damn it.
God damn it.
Alas. But yeah, let's see.
You hate it when that happens.
So let's see. The sets occupied 3 main stages: the Pentagon War Room, the B-52 Stratoforce bomber, and the last one containing both the motel room and General Ripper's office and outside corridor.
Uh-oh.
Guys, call me crazy, but I think the auto-destruct isn't working.
No shucks.
And yeah, just like over here in Portugal, we gave
the auto-destruct blew itself up.
Yes.
Well, dear.
And yeah, here in Portugal, just like in Italy, we just give it the same name, Doctor Strangelove. Yeah, same. And we removed the rest of the title.
Cute.
Well, most people usually just call the movie Doctor Strangelove for short.
Well,
so
my country actually did have the subtitles, but a lot of posters do not include it.
Okay.
Again, it's because it's overly long.
Oh yeah, it is. Like yeah, I found it. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna love this. So for the War Room, Ken Adam first designed a 2-level set, which Kubrick initially liked. However, in typical Kubrick fashion, he later decided it was not what he wanted, so it got scrapped.
Oh well.
I swear, I love Kubrick, but he was infamous for really going in on something and then deciding, actually no, let's not do this, throw it all out.
He procrastinates as much as I do.
Also, considering how good the final set design is, I wonder what it was the original.
Listen here.
Oh, come on, dude. Just because he's British doesn't mean he's the bad guy this time.
Yeah, he's not perverted. What's the matter with you?
Everyone wants to.
Also gonna love this guy. Like, he sounds a lot like William Hurt.
It's interesting. It's that type of humor where he plays the role incredibly serious to the point where...
I literally that poster on the wall. Civil defense is your business.
Also, Peter, you gotta be careful. There might not be a place for him to be tried.
Goodness gracious.
We have a quarter. Alright.
Maybe the reason everything's gone crazy is because we secretly do have a British man masquerading as an American to be president. Mass hysteria.
I mean, to be fair, right? Yes, a point.
Alright, now here comes one of the best lines in the movie.
Ah, good old advertising. Good, sweet advertising.
Which is funny because I think Coca-Cola will go on to own Columbia Pictures who released this movie.
The irony.
You see? You shoot a Coca-Cola machine, they buy you.
So, all's well that ends well, right?
Nah, too easy.
If I recall correctly, this is actually how kind of the original book ended.
George, what are you doing?
Too many guns, I guess.
Wait, we haven't made that plane yet.
Another Strangelove just stays there, ominous.
In the shadows.
Oh
There's
boy.
still that plane left.
Yeah.
I think that guy speaking now, that's Shane Rimmer. Yeah, he plays Captain Ace Owens, who's the co-pilot.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, as for the War Room film set, Kubrick insisted that the table be covered with green baize, although this could not be seen in the black and white film, to reinforce the actors' impression that they were playing a game of poker for the fate of the world. Kubrick asked Adam to build the set ceiling in concrete to force the director of photography to use only the on-set lights in the circle of lamps. Moreover, each lamp in the circle of lights was carefully placed and tested until Kubrick was happy with the result. Knowing him, that might have been at least a month.
Why did Kubrick just be the director of photography himself?
Well, he wasn't Roberto Rodriguez in terms of doing everything, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Uh-oh. George. Spaghetti.
Yeah, sure, let's get Italy involved, why don't we?
So, how's that for creative censorship?
I don't even think the movie is the movie even R-rated. I don't think there's been much swearing.
No. That's the whole point. Man, I said instead of saying shit hit the fan, they say spaghetti hit the fan just cause
Considering the film, sorry,
it's rated M12, so in
T, I guess.
So basic. Well, that's video games. In by modern American ratings, it would be PG-13.
Oh, sorry, PG-13, right?
Actually, it's rated PG here.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's why I said by modern, because remember, this was before PG-13 was a thing.
True.
And they
it's rated PG around here.
Yeah, they couldn't really put an R in it because, well, it's not really violent enough or swearing enough, so they had to put a PG in it. This means that little kids could have seen this movie in theaters.
Just like they saw Jaws.
His face.
Oh no, they're gonna take down the castle in the sky.
Oh dear.
It was one fateful Friday. While I was working, Castle in the Sky was just airing, and I accidentally wrote 100 instead of 1.
He's about to do something crazy, isn't he?
Oh, Drobo, yeah, no idea.
Are we sure this is satire? Because this seems pretty accurate of a depiction for me.
That's the scary part. Like you said, it's nice to know that in 80 years we learned only marginally better than then. Also, damn, the job of a pilot for one of these things must be a nightmare considering the amount of code situation to memorize.
Well, especially during war, since, you need special
Nowadays,
codes.
nowadays, obviously, a lot of instruments help do the job better, but back then, it must absolutely have been a nightmare.
All by hand.
Another reason why this movie is so beloved, even to this day, is also because there were actually a lot of movies, and like we saw for plenty of books, like the original book that this was based on, who had a lot of direct criticism at what was going on in the U.S. at the time. The thing is, a lot of those movies ended up being forgotten because nowadays a lot of those movies are mostly only interest film historians or historians in general, whereas casual movie going audiences don't typically care much about seeing a movie criticizing an America that is no longer the case, right? The America from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
However, people to this day will still watch this movie over and over because it's so goddamn funny.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it's genuinely the equivalent of a YouTube poop. And I mean, a very good made one. Maybe good for the source material, but also for the fact that it's just funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, this might be just... Yeah, it's probably just a me thing. Aside from this and Thunderbirds, the only other thing I remember Shane Rimmer from is when he dubbed over one guy in Live and Let Die who gets stabbed by the bad guy's minions. Yeah, it's like whose funeral is it? Yours. Stab.
Also, I forgot what year was instead the movie Patton released. Because George C. Scott played the teacher Catherine that, and seeing is basically, if it was done before this, seeing him cast for a role that's slightly similar, just played in a more humorous way, that's absolutely
1970.
Okay, so after this.
Anyway, in regards to the B-52, lacking cooperation from the Pentagon in the making of the film, the set designers reconstructed the aircraft cockpit to the best of their ability by comparing the cockpit of a B-29 Superfortress, those are some pretty big planes, and a single photograph of the cockpit of a B-52, and relating this to the geometry of the B-52's fuselage. The B-52 was a state-of-the-art in the 1960s, and its cockpit was off limits to the film crew. When some United States Air Force personnel were invited to view the reconstructed B-52 cockpit, they said it was absolutely correct, even to the little black box, which was the CRM. It was so accurate that Kubrick was concerned about whether Adams' team had carried out all its research legally. So, yeah.
Okay, I can understand because to these days something similar keeps happening in the Borg community. Sorry.
Bomb fusing.
No, go on, Theo.
There's a video game called, I think, War Thunder, which has an active community, which is about essentially, dogfighting both with planes, tanks, and boats. And one of the more recurring memes that happen is that apparently Russian people, particularly people involved in the military, keep leaking military confident informations on the forum because the aircraft or the tanks are not accurate enough, and they have to provide the secret military secret for that.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I'm reading the behind the scenes info here. It says that Kubrick and Peter George, as in the author of Red Alert, the original book, originally wrote it as a serious political thriller, actually. However, Kubrick decided that a serious treatment of the subject would not be believable. Yeah, I can see why. And thought that some of its most serious points would be fodder for comedy. So what they did is they reworked the script as a satire, and it says right here, Red Alert author and George and Kubrick reworked the script as a satire. So apparently George was also part of the reworking into a comedy, it says here.
From what we understand, he was upset it came to that. I'm guessing he was upset, but still, I guess for whatever reason, agreed to it.
I guess.
Anyway, as for the filming of the B-52 flying, let me see.
Go on.
In several shots of the B-52 flying over the polar ice en route to Russia, the shadow of the actual camera plane, a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, is visible in the ice cap below. The B-52 was a scale model composited into the Arctic footage, which was sped up to create a sense of jet speed.
I noticed that.
Home movie footage included in Inside the Making of Dr. Strangelove on the 2001 Special Edition DVD release of the film shows clips of the B-17 with a cursive Dr. Strangelove painted over the rear entry hatch on the right side of the fuselage. So, essentially, that plane is technically a still image doing their equivalent of photoshopping back then.
Yeah. Also, there you go.
Alas, Darth Vader can't get the doors open, so...
Hi there, dear John.
Oh, boy.
Basically, Jova, you're about to see possibly the most iconic scene of the movie, which has been also, referenced and parodied to death, because Major Kong is about to take things into his own hands, literally.
Now, King Kong, is the mission truly that important that you're about to do what I think you're about to do?
To be fair, again, they only received the order, and they have not received, because of the radio system, they have not received any, recall. So, as far as they know, they need to actually, go through with it.
So, before we get to Dr. Strangelove's brilliant plan to save us all, I'll have to say this, that upon release, the film stirred up a lot of controversy and mixed opinions, again, like most of Kubrick movies. New York Times film critic Bosley Crowther worried that it was a quote-unquote discredit and even contempt for our whole defense establishment. The most shattering, sick joke I've ever come across. Really? You must be fun at parties, dude. While Robert Brustein of Out of This World wrote an article called it a juvenalian satire.
Okay.
If you say so.
I don't agree with those, but... I guess if we look at it through the lens of the 60s,
they wanted to keep the propaganda high. That's the thing.
It's not just that. I can understand some people maybe being fearful of the messages this might have sent ripple-wise. Like, okay, you know how in the early 2000s, some people were afraid of doing certain media that they were afraid would cause military retaliation. South Park even did a pastiche of that, essentially. I'm wondering if that was sort of the mentality with this, making light of the Cold War at the time, since, okay, I wonder if, admittedly, it's easier to laugh at this now that the Cold War is over.
Most likely, Drova. There's a revelation that I got over the years is that political satire is best enjoyed decades after the fact.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure if we're lucky to still be alive, that is, 20, 30 years from now, probably a lot of people will look back at Trump jokes and actually laugh at them.
The funny thing is, another political comedy that has wagered on so far to the point that people forget it's political satire? Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, people really don't know that nowadays, but Alice in Wonderland was originally political satire, and oh my god, the absolute mad lad. He's riding the bomb. Oh no.
There we are.
Well, I'm glad he had fun.
At the expense of the whole world, probably.
The man who sold the world, that song, the probably should have been renamed The Man Who Blew Up the World.
Yeah, alright, so
what to do now?
Real quick, let me just say, Kubrick responded to the criticism stating, a satirist is someone who has a very skeptical view of human nature, but who still has the optimism to make some sort of joke about it. However brutal the joke might be. Yeah, I agree. Alright, so let's see what Dr. Strangelove's plan to save us all is. I'm sure it's brilliant. So...
Come on, Sellers, keep talking to yourself. Yeah, I noticed they're doing that classic thing of the cuts between shots, and This is
What are you? What is that?
Is that a prediction disc or something? Ugh.
Ah. I'm sure.
Dr. Strangelove, your German side is showing. Now, pay close attention to the actor playing the Russian ambassador, because you can actually see him laughing during this bit.
Of course.
Obviously. So basically, we're gonna pick a whole bunch of people selected into a bunker to survive, and then repopulate the Earth.
See, Jova, like you said, I think the whole liquid possessed arm thing came also from this.
Yes.
So basically, we're all gonna fuck like rabbits after the bomb, so we can repopulate the Earth.
Oh God!
Oh, the humanity!
10 females to each male.
Oh, so that's where Fallout got that joke from.
Not yet. Hold on. Yeah.
Imagine being so depressed that they can't even manage sex.
I think it's right now, if I remember. Yeah. See,
yeah, it's trying to hold up.
Yeah.
Geez, settle down.
Yeah, Stanley, I thought you were a man of detail. How did you not catch that?
He thought probably would add to the
Probably. If I recall correctly, this still actually was one of the last things they filmed.
Remember, Dwebs, he said that he didn't want to miss a single thing of Peter's improvising. What are you doing, you fucking twat?
Is this where Ash Williams got the idea?
Yeah, Sam Raimi tends to be referential as well, so I wouldn't be too surprised.
I mean, I'm convinced. I mean, I guess if we have to, I mean,
prodigious. So that's where the prodigious. So that's where the English dub of Digimon got that. I don't know if it says that in Japanese.
Oh, well, he seems on board with it. I wonder if maybe Kubrick decided.
Hey, considering how many people got really open to talking about polygamy after since 100 Girlfriends has been successful, who knows? Maybe we can do something after to these.
Also, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
I am leaving this conversation.
Oh, look at that! He actually had a camera.
Piece of shit.
Hey, yeah, Drova, that's how the movie ends.
So apparently, originally it was supposed to end with a pie fight in the.
Yes. Allow me. Oh yeah, and now by far, like, this is one of the most amazing endings ever, because not only do we see everything blowing up, we play, we will meet again, and don't know where, don't know when.
So the film literally ends
so
on...
that's gonna be a possibility.
Yeah, that's how humanity and civilization as we know it ends, Jova, because people
With
are
thunderous
morons.
support on the way being blown up.
Again, are we sure this is satire? Because it seems pretty accurate.
So you were saying
that's sad.
You're saying something about the pie scene, Pedro?
Basically, Jova, as you can probably guess, what happened was Peter was not supposed to get up and start screaming, "Mein Führer, I can walk." And that was purely him who just randomly, his brain farted, and he got up, and he realized it himself, and then he decided to scream, "Mein Führer, I can walk!" And then everybody in the set started laughing, right? And that's why
he cut it off there.
And that's why they get cut off. So Kubrick thought that moment was just so funny, he had to keep it in the movie, and that's why the scene cuts right there and then, so that we don't see.
Like I said, Jova, this is basically you to poop because it ends with basically it's an outtake.
Yeah.
There are apparently multiple accounts also as to why the pie fight scene was cut in 1969.
The end.
Yeah. One account people do have is that supposedly it may have been cut also due to the fact of the recent, at the time, assassination of John F. Kennedy. Kubrick said in a 1969 interview, "I decided it was a farce and not consistent with the satiric tone of the rest of the film." Critic Alexander Walker observed that the cream pies were flying around so thickly that people lost definition and you couldn't really say whom you were looking at. Niall Southern, son of screenwriter Terry Southern, suggested the fight was intended to be less jovial. Since they were laughing, it was unusable, because instead of having that totally black, which would have been amazing, like this blizzard, which in a sense is metaphorical for all the missiles that are coming as well, you just have these guys having a good old time. As Kubrick later said, it was a disaster of Homeric proportions. Now, as for that sequel, apparently the idea Kubrick had for that sequel was that it was supposed to be set largely in underground bunkers where Dr. Strangelove had taken refuge with a group of women. So that's apparently how the sequel would have been. I guess they would have made those underground bunkers in time.
Okay, then I guess.
And yeah, despite all the controversy and the criticism from some of these critics, the movie went on to be a huge financial success because a lot of young people, in particular, really took to the comedy and the brilliant satire. So
let me check the precise data just to be sure. Budget 1.8 million, box office the equivalent, because it's estimated roughly today, of 9.2 million, which for the time was a lot.
So, and also, that end scene was legit because Sellers forgot his character was paralyzed. So, So essentially the movie ends on a blooper when you get down to it.
Yeah, like you said, an outtake.
Literally. No, it's because, remember too, this is quote-unquote from the director of Paths of Glory. So this was back when Kubrick was at the pinnacle of his critical and popularity acclaim. So... all right, so that was Dr. Strangelove. Dwibs, final thoughts?
Okay, I wouldn't say this movie necessarily was maybe laugh a whole lot at the time, but it was certainly a very intriguing watch. Like, okay, it's not quite... some of the jokes... it's not, I don't think it's the movie's fault. It's probably just like the jokes didn't land, but I did like the film. Because you know, it had a lot of very interesting stuff in it. The funniest bits were involving Peter Sellers, especially I think one of my favorite characters in the movie is actually the British army man who tries to fight. Yeah, he tries to fight that crazy American who. I mean, he kind of succeeded. The guy killed himself, so. I know he figured out the code, so
yeah.
Well done to him.
He did all he could.
Yeah. You realize what that means to us. This means you're going to have to answer to the Coca-Cola company.
The Coca-Cola, right? The Coca-Cola company got blown up. We don't have to worry about that. The set design by Ken Adam, you know, obviously being a Bond fan, I'm used to seeing a lot of his style of set, and this is no exception. Like I could imagine if Bond was slightly more outlandish, Spectre would have that kind of meeting room.
You know, it's funny you mention that because you know how Bond occasionally gets in trouble with the government? Well, apparently, and I swear this is true, apparently first, while shooting aerial footage over Greenland, the crew accidentally caught a secret U.S. military base on camera. Plane was forced to land, and they were suspected of being Soviet spies. Whoops.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick, Soviet spy. That would be...
The truth truly is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. And again, the fact that... Again, I love the fact that they got the plane done just right to the point where Kubrick even wondered, you guys didn't actually break into an actual B-52, did you?
And as a again, this is strictly a me thing, but yeah, as a Thunderbirds fan, it's nice seeing an actor from that show be in a major film such as this, and with a decently sized part, all things considered, playing one of the pilots in the plane that kills everybody. Anything else?
What do you think of George C. Scott's facial acting, which I think is hilarious?
The guy puts so much effort into his facial expressions. I was worried he'd pull a muscle in his face.
All right.
I think that's it. I mean, I don't think it's it might not necessarily have been. It's comedy may not, for the most part, have really appealed to me, but the actual film itself was still engaging to watch. So it's it's one of those rare cases. Yeah, okay, a comedy's not exactly that funny, but everything else around it holds it up.
Well, and as of 1989, the United States Library of Congress included it as one of the first 25 films selected for preservation in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So, I guess that shows it made its mark.
All this talk about America, and yet the movie was actually made in the UK.
Dwibs,
which funny enough is Kubrick actually made a lot of his movies in the UK.
Dwibs, reminder: the American president is played by an Englishman. Congrats, your people finally infiltrated America to the highest degree and got a president there.
Yeah, we already did it in 1964.
Genius. Next, you'll be telling me Arnold Schwarzenegger will be president.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, there we go. Those are my points.
All right.
Next. Okay.
So, he's the newcomer, technically.
This movie's great. I'm not sure I'd call it my favorite. I will say it's probably my favorite of the Kubrick films, though. Like, it is genuinely interesting to see him go for a comedy. Mind you, it is, in ways, a bit of a subdued comedy, but a comedy nonetheless. Again, I do find it funny that, in typical Kubrick fashion, he just goes massively against the grain of what he's supposed to be adapting, which sometimes comes at the eye of the original offer, but nonetheless, this is a good picture. Again, the behind-the-scenes trivia is amazing for the stuff they managed to get right, either by intensive research, good educated guessing, or just straight-up blind luck. Like, it's so much of a running trend that, geez, you almost have to wonder if they did break into some places to find out this stuff. But nah, it's good, it's funny, the acting is top-notch, and overall it doesn't seem to overstay its welcome. I'll admit, I would have liked to have seen that sequel, honestly, and see how Kubrick would have handled doing a sequel as well. Alas. Great film, though. Great film. Tio.
I guess I'll go next. No, I don't remember what were my final thoughts for the original commentary, but I genuinely still like this movie. You know, mostly as a comedy, because it's kind of amazing how, despite being a time capsule, this is still managed to be this funny today. and I don't know what kind of magic did Kubrick did for having this. And again, maybe there's also the hindsight, how technically the Cold War went, and maybe when this came out, there were potentially, more room potentially to be afraid. I don't know. That's basically just speculating at this point. But no, I can tell you that also the movie is loved in my country. So it's all good around, both the performance. There's not, aside from, I think there's not a single piece of music outside of the in-universe stuff until the end with We'll Meet Again. So there's also a slight degree of realism that happens, I suppose. That's pretty cute. And the actor performance are all great. Shame we don't know what happened to poor Mandrake after the phone call. I guess we have to assume that he got, blasted as well, considering he wasn't probably in the top 100.
He had to answer the Coca-Cola company.
Of course. But no, I kind of also slightly agree with Jova in that I probably would have been interested to see how the sequel would have turned out, I suppose. So who knows? And yeah, just to mention also, yes, James Earl Jones, works perfectly fine in this movie for his first appearance. Like I said, he doesn't have to do or say much. He mostly just, he's present on camera more than I remember, definitely. But he mostly just stands there and occasionally have one or two lines. His role is relatively minimal, but works well enough. And he got only up from there, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, overall, still very solid. I wouldn't necessarily call it my favorite Kubrick movie. That probably still is 2001: Space Odyssey, but it's still relatively up there. And I'm still amazed how he managed to get away with it despite everything. Pedro.
No, Doctor Strangelove is a comedic classic in every single way. The satire is on point even today. The comedy is just incredibly smart and hilarious. The direction is, as usual, absolutely stellar. And it's just an incredibly fun movie to watch in general because it's just so bizarre. And again, Peter Sellers absolutely carries it because he is absolutely brilliant in all three of his roles, especially Doctor Strangelove. But even though Peter Sellers usually always gets a lot of credit, I also give a lot of credit to George C. Scott, whose visual reactions are absolute gold as well.
As well as also even some of the other actors and even some of the newcomers.
I haven't checked.
Sterling Hayden, aka Jack Ripper. He's just absolutely delightful as a fun, cuckoo antagonist.
And
I actually haven't checked who plays these. Sorry.
And Slim Pickens is Major T.J. King Kong, which is funny because I mentioned Mel Brooks and Slim Pickens would later be in Blazing Saddles.
Okay, as for the Russian, the Soviet ambassador, again, I wondered who actually was he played by because he looked familiar to me. He's played by Peter Bull, who had a lot of roles, and I recognize it because he was, I think, the judge at the court in the 1967's Dr. Dolittle movie. That's where I recognized him from. So there is that.
But no, it's absolutely great. Again, like I said before, it's so easy for movies that were made around this time, that were made specifically to satirize the Cold War, that of course don't have quite the same wide appeal they have nowadays because times have changed. They're good for historical purposes, but usually it's just that historical purposes. Not so much in terms of having a wide mainstream appeal, but Doctor Strangelove to this day is still referenced and celebrated because it's just that goddamn funny, and because the satire, like I said, is still just as on point today as it was in 1964. So it's an absolute classic, a brilliant, subversive comedy masterpiece in my eyes. So yeah. Once again, Kubrick moves from one genre to the other and sets a bar in that genre while he's at it. That's it. So, what Kubrick movie shall we do next, I wonder?
We already did Paths of Glory, and I think the original, it's one of those cases where the original commentary was fine. So who knows? We'll see.
Only time will tell.
See ya.
All right. See ya.